what are the key seasons on the White River when it comes to insects and the different hatches that you'll see?
Any given day of the week, if you tell me there's no hatch on, I need you to go catch a brown trout. You're going to do one of three things. Girdle bug or...
Let me ask you about the girdle bug. So my understanding of a girdle bug is it's an imitation of a stonefly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do we have like...
No.
So why do they eat those? In the Ozarks, people have always lived in rhythm with the natural world. Hunting, fishing, living off the land aren't just things we like to do, it's who we are. And though our lives are inextricably linked to the land we live on, today we've never been more disconnected from it. So join us as we travel across the region, bringing you the voices of the Ozarks, deepen our connection to the land, sharpen our skills in the outdoors, and learn what it means to be an Ozarker. Welcome back to the Ozark podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Veet, joined as always by co-host of the show and my good buddy, Kyle Plunkett.
Yes, sir.
What's going on, bro?
Man, we're back at it.
Yes,
back at Diamond State.
That's right. We just did
talking
this.
with Chad. No, this is part two of release different weeks though on kind of how to make sense of the White River.
Yeah.
What do you do with flows? What do you do with bugs? What do you do with hatches? What do you do when you don't know hatches and you're trying to figure out how to fish? So we're excited to be back. Excited to be talking about fishing.
That's right. We got Chad Johnson back with us.
Yep.
Welcome
Glad
back.
to be here.
Yep. So we just came off of last week. We talked through all the flows, talking through trying to understand the beast that is the White River and how, variable it can be up and down, high water, mid water, low water, what to do. But now I want to get into, we always hear about, fly fishing. One of the staples of fly fishing is match the hatch, understand what's going on with the bugs on the water. And that works. And if you can do that, you can catch fish. But there's a lot of in-between time, too, when there's maybe not necessarily a big hatch going on or where it might not be obvious. And so I want to talk about, like, fly selection and what to do when you're kind of in those little seasons. But before we go there, I want to ask you this. Let's just kind of break it down at a high level. What are the key seasons on the White River when it comes to insects and the different hatches that you'll see?
Yeah. So the reality is we've got three major hatches, and then we have some small ones. But our three major hatches and I'm calling one of them a major hatch. Everybody else may not do that. I'm calling them our midge hatch a major hatch.
Okay.
I mean, we get more midges than anything else we get. I mean, we get those 275 days a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't negate the midge hatching, even though it's not at times getting the big browns up and going and like this big prolific. Well, it is big and prolific. It's just, the rainbows are crushing them. The smaller browns are crushing them. But it is the biggest hatch we have.
Okay.
Just most tailwaters are that way. Tailwaters are major midge fisheries.
And I mean, I'm just going to ask a basic question here. When you say a midge, I know that's like a tiny, tiny bug. What actually is that? Like, what does a midge become? Is a midge a fly? Like, I've never I just know midge is like a small, tiny fly.
Okay. So, in layman's terms, it kind of looks like a mosquito. Right? That's kind of the size bug we're talking about. Very tiny legs. To be honest, a mosquito body might be a little big.
Yeah, okay.
To consider it a midge. I mean, they really are like just thread. The body width of that small hook is about how big their bodies actually are.
Okay.
That's why I say a lot of people wouldn't consider that one of our major hatches.
Yeah, there's just.
But I can't negate that. I mean, I catch more fish on midges than anything else I catch here. But when the hatches you want to know about
that most people are hearing about.
Yeah, are the Caddis hatch and the sulfur hatch.
Okay.
And so Caddis hatch is really funny, man. Things are changing here on the White River. Heck, maybe an entomologist will hear us talking and he'll hit me up on Facebook and explain it to me. But we've just had some funny things. So back in the day, I mean, obviously, I know temperatures are changing, or kind of what's causing what I'm going to say next. But so when I first got here, the hatches were fairly small, but I could mark them on March 15th. Like
Really?
March 15th, boom, I was going to start seeing my first Rackophilia caddis, which are really a really nice size 14 white winged caddis.
Okay.
And over the years, it's just gotten a little later and a little later and a little later. And it seems like now it's kind of mid-April. Is kind of when they really start popping, and they usually go somewhere around 5 weeks, something like that. And when I say prolific, I mean hatching in your cup holders.
Mm-hmm.
Wipe them out from under your glasses. Like every fish in the river is eating it. My bait fishing buddies go, Chad, during that time, I can't even catch my minnows to go fishing because they're eating damn caddis, right? Like, I mean, it's every fish in the river is eating caddis, big and small.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it can be quite ridiculous at times the way they stack up.
Yeah.
Real quick, do you think it's later because the minimum flow has changed? Like they just push more water? And so there's less sunlight getting to the bottom to warm it up and all that kind of stuff? Or are we, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, the water out of our lake seems to not
Not be
warm
as
as
warm.
fast.
Okay.
Absolutely. It does.
I didn't realize it was that early to start.
I mean, in that, like, just a week and I just bought a new thermometer over here. They got them in, by the way. But just a week and a half ago, it was still 47 degrees,
Okay.
which is too cold
Yeah,
right
that's
now.
cold.
And at that 51 or 2, don't crush me if I'm wrong, that's when those caddis really start to do well.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we really seen this year was if we didn't get any sunshine,
They weren't hatching.
it didn't hatch.
Really?
Yeah. Interesting.
Where typically the water would be warm enough
Yeah.
that it would make them hatch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? But here's the part I was talking about, if an entomologist can explain this to me or not. So hatches start on the lower end of the river.
Right.
Okay, because that's what warms up first, and we know our hatches are all about temperature. Okay, as of about 4 years ago, they hatch at the dam as soon as they hatch at Buffalo City.
Really?
Makes no sense.
Hmm.
And it wasn't that way. I used to chase that hatch upriver. I would start down there, and
Right.
as the weeks went, and before it was all over with, I was at the dam. Now, there's actually not quite as many. There's not as many bugs down there as there used to be, and up top is just loaded. And so it's really kind of weird how
That is weird.
those bugs. I mean, yeah, it's really strange how it doesn't start downstream. They kind of start everywhere at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it shouldn't be that way. And so I don't really know what causes that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I almost wonder if there's some kind of like I don't know, minimal hybridization or something where that bug is adapting to that water faster because it's been here longer, just that many more years. I don't know. Like that would be an interesting thing to hear.
I think you're on to something with your temperature.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just
Yeah.
curious if that's.
No,
I know they
that,
run more water
that could
and
be
all that kind of stuff too. But that doesn't help solve your why are they starting at the dam
no, at the
problem, right?
At the bottom.
That
And
doesn't
then
make any
so
sense.
anyway, 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so what? Now we're, a week into June, or, third week of May. And we'll get a couple of in-between weeks, which I can usually catch them on hoppers.
Mm.
And then we'll start getting sulfurs. Here's another entomologist question. Our sulfurs don't hatch unless we have high water. And so if we had low water, our sulfurs don't even come off.
You don't get
As
any
soon
mayflies.
as he starts our summer high water, our sulfurs come off. as soon as he starts. As soon as this high water starts, those sulfurs will come.
Who's he?
He, the guy at the dam that has the button.
I was like, talking about God here?
The powers that be.
Yeah.
SWEPCO and the Corps of Engineers.
Sounds like a conspiracy theory.
Oh, dude. That guy shouldn't run around in public much. I don't know who he is, this mysterious ghost guy, but he shouldn't get caught in public.
He's like a lighthouse keeper. He just
Yeah.
lives in the dam.
He's probably an avid podcast listener. He's hearing this. It's like, wait a
like-
second.
Yeah, right.
Showing off to his friends, like, watch me screw with all these guys.
Yeah, I bet he
Crank
does
all
that,
the-
yeah.
all the generators
Oh, yeah,
on.
just going, watch them down there.
Watch them
Yeah.
bump.
But one of the funny things that happens is, that water, they'll kick that thing up 10, 15 grand, start trying to dump all this water out of the lake, and those fish will just push behind brush tops, get in eddy water,
Yeah.
and eat the crap out of them. So we're like dry fly fishing in 15,000 CFS.
Dang.
Pretty fun.
It's crazy. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they don't hatch, which is kind of opposite of like the traditional thinking of low water, warmer bottom, because the sunlight's coming through the water, warming the bottom, letting those bugs
I know.
hatch. So, but you need high water to let those sulfurs hatch.
I know. That's the part we're all wanting somebody else. We've had crazy things like people going, well, they're coming out of the banks and
Yeah.
they don't get it unless the water's high. There's been all kinds of theories. I don't believe any of them.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what it actually was.
I would too.
But you
They
have
can't be
to
coming out of the banks
understand-
because they live in the water.
That's
I mean,
right.
as the
No,
midge
they're
form,
not.
they're in the water.
Yeah.
But you have to understand when we are talking about the hatches before we move on that like the difference in the fishing when you're actually in a hatch. Like, so think about this. Little redneck here. All right.
We like little
So,
redneck.
That's
If I
That's safe here.
if I
Safe
come up
space.
to you and I gave you a bag of Doritos
Mm-hmm.
and there was one fake Dorito in the middle of the bag, the likeliness that you would eat 30 real Doritos and put that fake one in your mouth is pretty high, right?
Mhm.
But if I walked up to you and I tried to hand you one Dorito, you would look at it and you'd go, why is this guy trying to hand me one Dorito? And you would inspect it. You'd probably notice it looked a little funny, like our flies.
Mhm.
And the likeliness of you eating's not very good.
Hmm.
When we're fishing and there's not
That's
a hatch
true.
on, we're out there trying to hand them one potato chip. And they make their living eating potato chips,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like, the fishing is so different if you have a hatch. And so, like, as a fisherman, when I go places, if I'm going to go do something, I don't just go what river am I going to. I go, I want to go fish such and such. Where's that hatching?
Mhm.
Oh, I want to go fish a such and such river. What's hatching on it right now? And it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That makes total sense. I'm not eating a single Dorito from, I don't care who it is. If some dude walks up to me with a
Right?
single Dorito, I'm like, yeah, I don't know where that
But
came
if somebody
from.
said, "Here's a whole bag,"
Yeah, I'm
like, yeah,
totally,
tear it open
I'm
and-
into it.
that makes sense. Well, and then there's the other part that I know some guides talk about, which is if I came up to you and handed you 20 Dorito bags, the likelihood of you eating all those bags is pretty unlikely, and so you can actually get oversaturated with Doritos.
Yeah.
Because you'll hear guys who they'll
I see
they'll
what
hit
you're
the start of
saying.
the hatch and they're killing it, and then all of a sudden it's like, one of those
There's too
like,
many
plague
bugs. I can't-
hatches.
yeah,
where
I
it's
can't
just
even
bugs
get 'em
everywhere.
to eat mine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And,
Too many real ones.
unless they do something different, and that works. But so
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Just put on something
Something
totally
different.
different. Yeah.
Mhm.
so we've hit kind of Caddis, and that's, you said April to mid-May.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a little bit of a
sulfurs.
dead period or down period,
Mhm.
and then you get sulfurs, and that's
Mhm.
a mayfly. It's a big old bug.
Mhm.
And then the third is really the midge, kind of the always.
third is really the midge.
always
So those
midge.
are really the two big hatches. And then by the time the sulfurs leave, we're on to hopper season.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Girdle bugs, hoppers, that type thing.
and those aren't hatches; those are falling in.
yeah,
Yeah,
those are.
great
Well,
fun.
I always say if you think about it, you're through the spring, you're fishing everything from the bottom up.
Mhm.
From the summer, you're fishing everything from the top down.
Mhm.
Right, just a way to think about it and kind of help pick on your bug selection when
Right.
you go somewhere. right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, when you think about, I mean, not that you can't catch fish on the bottom with loads of things during the summer, but when you start thinking of the natural things, what's actually happening that they're eating on the bottom during the summer would be a crawfish,
Mm-hmm.
right? Other than that, most of the fish that I'm catching, they're eating stuff from above.
Mm-hmm.
You know, outside of, I do have some smallmouth that are crushing crawfish that you've got to get down and get them.
Yeah, you got to fish the crawdad.
And so in the summer, if they're more keyed into like thinking about what's on the top, in the summer is usually when you have higher flows, right? Because they're trying to generate more water to get more power to power
Mhm.
electricity in the homes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be a little bit counterintuitive to think like the extra effort to get your fly all the way down to the bottom in high water and to have a lower, opportunity for fish to eat that. You're really trying to target the top.
It would be counterintuitive. If you're thinking, hey, the food's coming from up top, what am I doing trying to get 12 foot deep?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Kind of
Mm-hmm.
way to think about it. So, as a general rule, we're looking at that kind of water through the summer. I got on a hopper with a girdle bug tag, 3 foot below it, and I'm fishing it on the bank.
Yeah.
That's really your summer rig. I mean, we change a few things. There's a few like small nymphs that we'll tag them with that we do pretty dang well with that time of year under a hopper as well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times you got to pull your dropper off because if you got on a 3 foot dropper, that's 3 foot off the bank. You got to put your hopper.
Yeah.
So if they're really on the hoppers, we pull that off so you can get that hopper closer.
And just go real clean with one
Mhm.
Go
fly.
real clean, one ply, and you can get it in right on the bank.
Yeah.
So once they really turn on to them, but they will not turn on to those hoppers like that until those sulfurs are gone.
Okay. Gotcha.
And when do those sulfurs? When does that hatch dry up?
It's the same. It lasts 4 to 5 weeks.
Okay.
And
So
it's
pretty much through
starting
June.
the second week in June or so, or when he turns that water on.
Yeah.
But
When
usually,
the guy
that-
in the
when
dam
he-
hits the button.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's good.
Right.
So, but you asked a question about in between time.
Yeah. So you've got these major hatches and kind of things
Mhm.
that people hear about, know about. Yeah. What do you do when you come on a day and it's like, well, it's not a caddis hatch, it's not a mayfly hatch. Maybe the hoppers aren't going crazy.
Okay.
What do you do?
So I'm going to go rainbows first. If you're here and you're fishing rainbows and there's no hatch on, there's a midge hatch every day. You can't beat a midge. You can't beat a midge for a rainbow. Sow bugs and scuds are crustaceans. They're here year round. They love them. So you should be fishing a scud or a sow bug or a midge or a woolly booger. Woolly booger works great. It's a small sculpin, a small crayfish. It's something moving.
Mm-hmm.
It's
and
food.
a lot of time they just like that.
Yeah.
Right?
So with the midges and the scuds and sow bugs, most of the time you're under an indicator.
Yes.
With a woolly booger, are you starting to strip that, or do you?
You're stripping and swinging that.
Okay.
Yes.
You won't put a woolly booger under an indicator.
At times, but typically no.
Okay.
If I put on a woolly booger, it's because I want to do something other than indicator fishing. I'm in low water.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And my customers don't want to look at an indicator anymore, and so I go put on woolly boogers and let them strip them over grass beds, and those rainbows eat the crap out of them, and we have a good time stripping flies and watching the rainbows dart after them
Yeah,
and
that's
chase
fun.
them, and
Some action.
it's action,
Mhm.
and so just a different tactic though. But that's typically a low water. If I put that on, it's because I'm wanting to move something. Typically, if I'm dead drifting, I do better with my bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so that would be the rainbows. And when it comes to our browns, guys, our browns are dirty. I mean, dirty eaters, like if I had to say, like any given day of the week, if you tell me there's no hatch on, I need you to go catch a brown trout, I'm probably going to do one of 3 things. I'm either going to go strip a small streamer, or I'm going to drift a mop.
Yeah.
Yep. Mops are big ones. They catch a lot of brown trout on mops.
What color? Buggy color or, bright color?
White.
White.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with a white mop fly.
White on the white. That's
It's,
kind of the
it's
game.
crazy,
Yeah.
but they just eat so dirty on that note. I mean, they're just, I don't know why they like it, but they just, that's and that's a thing.
Grubby, food-looking thing.
Yep. So I'm either gonna drift a mop or a girdle bug or strip a small streamer on a day for a brown that there's nothing going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not typically gonna try to nymph one up that day because nothing with bug wise. So I'm gonna try to do something dirty.
Yeah.
Girdle bug, mop, or small streamer.
Yeah.
What size girdle bug? Let's say it's July.
8 or 10.
Mid-July.
8.
Size 8 girdle bug.
Let me ask you about the girdle bug. So my understanding of a girdle bug is it's an imitation of a stonefly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Do we have like
No.
so why do they eat those?
I think they're eating them as baby crawdads.
Really?
The,
Okay.
The time of the year that they eat them the best is during the crawdad hatch, and I think that that's what they're eating them as, baby crawdad. Because I can take them out to my smallmouth stream.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Dude. I fished like a whole tournament for smallmouth bass and never put on anything other than the girdle bug.
No way. On an indicator, or you strip it on the bottom? Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, but I think they're eating them as baby crawdads.
That's
I've
because
never thought about how we don't have stoneflies, but that's the imitation.
you don't ever see it. Like,
Yeah.
do we not have any? Like, I don't know.
I have found them on the river before, down around Buffalo City
Okay.
on the lower end, where we have some silt and things coming in off the Buffalo River, but it's not something that
It's
we
not like
have.
Montana where it's like, oh, there's the stonefly hatch.
No,
and they're
we
big
do
old,
not have
like,
a stonefly.
There's no
Yeah.
hatch.
No,
Yeah.
no.
All right,
we
so
would
if it's-
love to have a big bug introduced up here.
It'd be fun.
Well, see, something while we're talking about bugs, something to think about is like when I moved here, this river was only 50 years old. I've been here 20 years, so now it's only 70 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a smallmouth fishery
Mm-hmm.
until they dammed it up and put trout in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it also had warm water bugs. So it has taken a lot of years for these bugs to establish themselves. When I first got here 20 years ago, we didn't have a sulfur hatch like that, not even close. Like a couple would trickle through here and there, and we go crazy, and it was never enough to get fish to eat anything. We didn't have a sulfur hatch.
Yeah.
And now that is prolific. Our Caddis hatch was okay,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's prolific. And so, like, we're a young river on our bugs, on our cold water bugs. So we still feel like we're maturing and that we're just going to continue to get more and more.
Only going to get better.
It's only going to get better in our bug life. It's twice the dry fly fishery it is now than when I showed up here 20 years ago.
I believe that.
Yeah.
You said we don't have a big bug introduced, but you do have, big caddis every like 17 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cicadas.
Those
Sorry,
big
cicadas.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
cicadas.
cicadas.
Is it every 17? And then what's the other one? Every
Oh, you'd probably know better than me,
And
Chad.
13.
13 and
13,
17. So if
yeah.
you're willing to, really wait.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you got the annual cicadas.
You do.
Oh, that's
You
true.
have the annual the olive ones, and
Yeah.
we see some of them getting eaten, but it's usually not prolific.
Yeah.
The cicada's not enough. I don't know.
Well, no, the
Not
cicada
counted on
would
enough.
be. It's just that it's not often enough.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
And so kind of what I've always said is it takes a few really big bugs or a lot of small bugs to get those browns going.
Okay.
And so like when that cicada thing happened, that was the 17-year deal, it really only touched the White River in 2 spots. It was not near as prolific as it was made up to be.
Mm-hmm.
But however, where it did touch the white, there were big browns up eating them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I never threw to any of the trout. I found out that they were smallmouth were crushing them.
Yeah.
And so for that whole 3 weeks,
You
I
were
was
up in
on
the creek.
smallmouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were turning backflips out of the water for them. I got to where I wasn't even fishing like cicada patterns anymore. I tore the legs off a black popper and pushed orange legs through it and was pop, 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 pop. It was insane. Because all of them that were dead drifting, the brim and the goggle eye or the Ozark bass and that type thing were eating, and all the ones that were alive going bzz, 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 bzz. bass were turning backflips
Smallmouth
out of
wanted
the
'em.
water for them, dude. So we just got to where we pop, and just didn't stop them, and they were crushing them, knocking poppers out of the water, out in the air, out of the water like a deadgum peacock bass on a plug, dude. It was so cool.
That's so fun.
And so I stayed over there the whole time. On
You're
that
up in the
hatch.
creek. I love
was
it.
Fun.
We were talking to a buddy who was catching striper on him.
Ooh.
He was like, "Yeah, that was the coolest thing ever."
It had to
Was
be. Can
catching
you
striper on
imagine?
cicada,
Yeah.
striper top water.
Any of those fish eat them. I had a couple of boys that came to me that were doing like a tour. They were following it around. They were going to like 4 different places to hit the
Oh,
cicada
that's cool.
hatch.
That's
Yeah.
fun.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one thing about so you're talking about fish behavior and how they're reacting to different flies. I'm curious, when you come out on a day and you're figuring it out and you're starting to throw some different things and one thing's not working, you've tried the midge and that's not working, I'm doing this, whatever. How do you read the fish behavior and if you start seeing some chasing something or turning off, or like do you change up your strategy? What are you looking for in the water?
So it's kind of funny that because we get to be on it every day, that we get to see the changes, and all us guides are talking about what we're catching them on. And so, like, it's very rare that I go to the river and don't know what bugs I'm going to use before I get there.
Right.
But I think a lot of times, and I see it a ton, is I'll get out there this morning. I got out there and I knew I've been catching them on lightning bugs and midges. Sorry, it was yesterday morning. Lightning bugs and midges, and I got out there and they were rising up to the midge but not eating it and going back down, and rising up to the midge but not eating it and going back down. And I was like, all right, they want it. They're moving for it. Something's a little off. And I deepened his rig 6 more inches, and they started eating it.
And that was a trick.
That was the deal.
Yeah.
And so I think that happens to us so often that it's some little thing. Because I knew they were eating midges. I was looking at midges. I was watching them eat, and so, I mean, they're rising up dimpling. I mean, these fish are eating midges. Why are they not eating mine, right? And so my next move would have been, if they had not eaten that, I would have, so I was fishing a ruby midge. That's just a red midge with black thread. And I tie them with a silver bead and a copper bead. And
You double bead.
No. 2 different flies.
Oh, I gotcha. 2
And-
variations.
And I find most of the time what it is sunny day silver bead and cloudy day copper bead. But I will fish the same midge just with a different color bead, and they'll start eating it. So
Little
there's so
subtle
many
things.
micro changes out there that it can be pretty challenging deciding what the issue is. Hold on, do they not even want that bug? Well, they were coming and looking at it. Something interested in them in it.
Right.
Or am I not getting any looks at all? Am I not getting anything? Okay, well, the water is a little cloudy, so can they not see it? Do I need a lead? Do I need to put on a girdle bug or a sandworm worm or a whatever lead to get them to move over and line up with me so they can see my midge? And something a little brighter can get them to line up so that they'll move over in lane so they can see what you're actually trying to present to them. It don't even have to be something they'll eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tie a mop on, tie an egg on, tie a sandworm worm on if the water's cloudy. They may be eating the same midge they were eating upriver for you before it got cloudy where that creek came in. Just now they can't see it as good, so they're not moving over as far with it.
Yeah.
So you needed a lead. You didn't need a new bug, right? So if you're out there doing it right, it's tough.
Yeah, that is
It's tough.
fascinating. I've always heard of attractor flies and getting their attention, but I've never thought about it like getting them to see it sooner so they can move over into the swim lane to be there at the moment that your fly actually gets there.
A fish may not move over 4 foot for a midge, but he'll move over 4 foot to look at that egg and then eat that midge.
And then eat the midge. Fascinating. Genius.
Yeah.
I love it.
And so it is, when you get into it, it can be very hard like that. But what I would say to give people, like, not just to go, well, guys, it's tough, live with it.
Yeah.
So what I would say is if you're here and you've got some flies that you know have worked for you in the past, play with your depths before you do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Before you move, before you do anything, play with your depths.
Yeah.
We're almost never getting as deep as we think we are.
Mm-hmm.
Almost never, especially if you're wading.
Yeah. We've done that so many times, and exactly what you're saying. We've pushed it down another 6 inches, another foot, and we start catching fish immediately.
Yes, because it's so tough to get those bugs. You know, when we're in that boat, we're putting a cast out and we're drifting, 100 foot. You're getting to drift, 15, 20 good,
Mm-hmm.
by the time you throw up man, and then boom, finally, and your mans are pulling it up and they're doing, and then finally it gets right here and it starts swinging up again, and, and so, like, you're in that zone for such a small, narrow window of time that you should really do that first, is play with your depths. But as far as fly selection, as a general rule here, when it comes to our nymphs, you're going to fish a sulfur pattern, a caddis pattern, a midge pattern, and a scud and a sow bug. And if I had those 5 bugs in my boat, I'd be good to fish the White River as far as nymphs go.
Yeah.
And so that's not that many.
No, it's really not.
That's like 5.
It's pretty simple.
And so what I would say is per time of year. So if I got here during the winter, I'm starting with my midge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's all that's going on. I'm starting with the midge. You may put on a heavy beaded mayfly so that you can get your midge down, but make no mistake, it's the midge you're fishing, right? And then if I got here anywhere between March and May, I'm going to start with a caddis and probably tag a midge off of it.
Yeah.
Right? And then if I'm here anytime after May, I'm going to start with my mayfly and a midge.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we get those midge hatches every day. And so that midge is pretty much going to be tacked onto the bottom of every one of those for me, for the most part, until I get something just so hammered down where, no, I'm in the middle of a caddis hatch.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to put on a 14 and a 16.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll give you one little quick Whitlock story. So I'm fishing the caddis hatch, and I'm whooping brown trout. But I'm whooping them on a midge in the middle of the caddis hatch.
Wow.
Okay?
Okay.
And so I go to him, and I'm like, all right, Dave, what's going on? And I got these 2 bugs in my hand. I got a caddis and I got a midge. And I go, Dave, I know it's the caddis hatch that's getting these browns up and going. I know that's why they're feeding. I said, but right in the middle of the caddis hatch, I am fishing this caddis down to the midge, and those browns are taking the midge every time. And he goes, well, Johnson, if I had 2 pieces of shit in my hand and you had to eat one of them, which one would you eat? And I said, well, Dave, I guess I'd eat the little one so I didn't have to eat so much of it. And he goes, yeah, I think that's what they're doing. And I go, Dave, man, are you just calling my flies crap, man? Yeah. And he goes, oh, you know me, Johnson. I like catching my fish on pretty flies. And he laughed for a minute, but then he told me, he said that I didn't realize how perfect of a caddis casing I had tied. And it was brown midge with black wire for rib and a copper bead. And he said that caddis, that Racophilia caddis, when it's popping out of its husk, his little helmet that's on front of the worm, you know, looks just like that copper bead. That husk is brown with black rib, and that they were eating it as the full caddis casing with the caddis in it. And that's why they were eating that one. Yeah.
How does he know all that? Like, how did he know all that stuff?
How did he figure it out? That's what I want to know.
Mind, it really was. Like, you know, I sit around and I talk about all kinds of really great fishermen that I've gotten to fish with over the years and all. But Dave's mind worked different.
Yeah.
He was a different guy.
Yeah.
I've met so many of these guys, and Dave was just different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, Chad, we really appreciate you, man. This has been fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been great.
Good.
If people want to get in contact with you, push them to the website.
Yeah. CJ's White River Outfitter. Yep.
Good deal.
Yep. Got a website. Go check it out. You can hear my podcast. You can look at the water reports. I have a cabin on there I rent, and also my booking agent for booking guide trips.
There we go.
Awesome.
The one-stop shop.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love it, man.
Well, it was a good time. And
yeah, thank you again.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Everybody, y'all share this with your friends. We really, really appreciate it. It means the world to get some good fishing info out to the people of the Ozarks. And remember that if you want to stop by the Diamond State Fly Co., you can use our Patreon discount on the same hauler, get 10% off at the store. And we will see y'all on the next one.
That's right. See y'all.
Later, guys.